Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host, and today, guys, it's just going to be me, honestly. And with that, we're going to dive into a few topics here. First and foremost, um, really just thank you guys for listening. We appreciate all of you that tune in every single week to hear Matt, myself, our guests. We really just appreciate you guys for tuning in, for listening to us, and for kind of being along for this journey that we're all on. And basically, this and probably the next episode, we'll see what I end up putting it out as. But really, first, I want to talk about just community. So I've kind of talked about it's been in some of my LinkedIn posts and newsletters and that kind of stuff, but is really about shooting sports. So I picked up shooting, action pistol events, right? Move and shoot, communicate, all that kind of good stuff. And with um, shooting sports and action pistol in particular, it's been a pretty cool experience. I go to this club. It's like a hour from my house, roughly, and usually there's about like 100 shooters that come out for these events. They're twice a month, and it's just a lot of just really good people. Everybody, gets along. There's no real arguing that I've seen or found. Everyone's pretty cool with each other, right? Everyone's got a common interest. There's people of all ages, size, shapes, ethnicities, men, women, young, old. It really doesn't matter. And we're out there for a common interest and a common thing. And that's a lot like, what you see out in construction sites, right? There's no one size fits all. There's no one this or that. It's a full community of people that are really out there to, again, put a project together. At the end of the day, that's what we're all looking to do, right? Is to put a project together to have a great result for the owner, do a good job, and go home. But through this shooting sport, and going out there, it's been cool kind of in the evolution, right? I've been doing this since like November of last year. So like right at, 7 months basically doing this, maybe um 10 times coming out, something like that, to shoot. And it's been really kind of a cool evolution, right? Where at first I was pretty terrible. I was just good enough to be safe. And, that's all that mattered, right? Went out, was safe, and had a good time, did not shoot that well. But went out and just kept showing up. And now I'm getting good enough to where I'm not terrible, getting scores put on the board. My scores are okay. They're by no means great, but just by going out there, becoming a doing it more, I get better, which means I enjoy it more. I'm not as terrible as I once was at the beginning. And some of this is, like for this last weekend's match, that I wasn't putting so much pressure on myself, that I kind of relaxed a little bit, and then in relaxing and just letting it flow, I did better than when I put all this pressure on myself. And that relates to like so much in business, where we put all this pressure on ourselves, or on projects, or just in life, where we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be good, to perform, to do great, to live up to the expectations we built up in our own heads. And often that puts so much pressure on us that we don't do as well as we could have in that performance, right? When we let go of some of that pressure and just let it kind of come naturally, we do oftentimes much better than we ever expected we could. So, what I want to say, and out of this, not only just relaying some of my own experiences in life, but is to let you guys know that you don't have to be so hard on yourselves all the time. I know a lot of us are. We put that pressure on ourselves, become great, and that's needed in a lot of ways, right? To push to do better, to continue that self improvement. But there's like a line in there, and it's so nuanced in how we approach it, how we go after it, to really make sure that we continue to push those boundaries without kind of sabotaging ourselves in the process. When you have just constant improvement and constant training and continue to improve and get better on a day by day basis, that provides so much more benefit and value, and really improvement over the long run that, is always hard to see in a moment by moment basis, right? When I can look at my objective scores for shooting sport now compared to what they were last month before, 6 months ago, they're objectively better, right? It is an objective score. And so with that, I can see that I'm getting better each and every match, each and every time out. And that is super cool to see that ability to get better, to improve. And it's just the constant improvement, constant training that allows us to get there. And really what I want to lead into with that is um really like goals. So as we goal set, and this is going to lead into the two other things I'm going to talk about, which part of this is going to be broken up into two episodes, but we're going to talk about goals, happiness versus fulfillment, and relationships, and really what this means and how we can get more out of the relationships that we have, and why we need to, or how we need to think about some relationships that we have, not just in the kind of romantic sense, right? Our personal relationships, but business relationships, vendors, that kind of stuff. So as we talk about goals, and again, I hate to continue to like bring up some of this, but with goals, it's here we are in May, right? We got uh 5/12 of the year down, right? Closing in on halfway. And instead of just looking at our goals maybe every December, maybe in January, we need to constantly be reevaluating where our goals are, where we stand, and where we need to go. And I find that most people, and this is going to lead into like the happiness and fulfillment conversation, but is most people have a depth perception issue, right? Where they're too focused on something, on that big goal, right? The big unattainable thing, right? So for me, I love yachts. And so a yacht, in my mind, the type of yacht that I want is like a 9-figure deal, right? Which I'm not going to get in the next 6 months or probably 6 years, right? It might take longer than that, like 10, 15, 20 years to get to that large goal. But it doesn't mean that it's unattainable. What it means is that I need to focus on the small goals, right? The thing that's right in front of me that I have a high belief in. And I'm going to talk more in this in my May newsletter. So make sure to sign up for that. There's a link in the description to sign up for the free newsletter for May here on goals and breaking it down. But you need to focus on typically what's right in front of you. If you're in the moment, if you're in the thing that you need to be doing right now, today, in this moment, you're going to perform really, really well, right? For me right now, that's this podcast, making sure that I'm doing well for you guys, speaking well, clearly articulating my thoughts, and to helps that I have a list in front of me of things to talking about. But be in the moment, right? Like I think so often with our phones, texts, emails, social media that we get distracted and really aren't in the moment, right? We're not thinking about the objective that we have right here, right now. And if I relate this back to shooting sport, it's if you have, 6 targets, which I had like 6 steel, and they're, 2 feet apart, then if I focus on the next target, right, not the one that I'm shooting, but the next one, I'm never going to hit the one that I need to hit to then move on to the next target. So for a lot of us, we're thinking about the next thing down the road, the next phone call, the next deal, the thing that we need to do when we get home, the chores, the honey-do list, the list goes on of all the things that we end up talking about, thinking about, versus the tasks that we have immediately right now in front of us. And if we're able to focus in on that task at hand for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever it might be, we're able to get through it faster to then have that small window of break, right, at the top of the hour or whatever, to check, emails, texts, phone calls, whatever we might have missed, and then to address those all at once, and then to move on to our next task, be in that thing for the next 30 minutes, hour, whatever. And then again, break, have the timeout for something else. And really, this is going to allow you to just move further down the field and to accomplish your goals faster, right? That's really all we're talking about here, is to be focused in the moment, to allow yourself to address and hit the goals that you need to work on. And what I find helpful for a lot of this is often when we're working on stuff like we have our phone closed because we need to take notes or jot something down or to use a calculator or whatever it might be that our phone's going to be used for. But oftentimes we just have it there and it becomes a distraction, right? You answer emails or texts or phone calls or jump on social media, right? Because it's a habit. So what I like to do is try to have everything analog as much as possible, right? As I'm writing down notes or jotting things for like podcast or things I need to do or how I need to write the next sales letter, email, or what my pitch is going to be for meetings or a presentation idea or whatever it might be, right? To go old school as much as possible to really just use pen and paper. Or if I'm, on phone calls, things like that, I have a blank piece of paper in front of me, pen and paper to write things down. And it just reduces the number of distractions that can come up unintentionally, whether I'm on calls or whatever. So that then allows me to take those thoughts, ideas, call this person, do that, whatever that to-do list might be that pops up in my head, I can put it on paper and then I come back to it at the end of the call, end of the whatever, and be able to address those thoughts, those ideas, or just let them, go. So having really, this piece of paper, uh, breaking things down to their component parts and being disciplined and focused on the task at hand is going to allow you to achieve your goals faster. And then the thing that I want to address in happiness and fulfillment is kind of along with goals, right? We set these big goals because that's what everybody tells you, right? To set big, hairy, audacious goals, right? BHAG from Jim Collins's book. And so in setting a BHAG, it's, you want to be aggressive, you want to have that big goal, but often we have a depth perception problem, right? How and when are we going to achieve this goal? And oftentimes there's a lot of things that are out of your control, out of your sphere of influence to really achieve that within a time frame that you set. You can always achieve that goal. It just might take longer. It might come here shorter, right? Time is not necessarily in your control. So we have a depth perception issue on, that big goal and then what's really achievable below that. And so the way that we can kind of fix this is, within that big goal, what are some of the key milestones that you have in reaching, that big goal, right? What are the milestones along the way that you can set as kind of mini goals along it, and then really just focus your efforts on hitting that first milestone, second milestone, third milestone, right? And knock each one of them off. And one of the things that I like to compare this to is in like running, right? For those of you that don't run or maybe are thinking about running, right? A 5K is something that you probably have a high belief that you're going to be able to hit. And so with goals too, and this goes in the happiness and fulfillment piece, which again, I write a lot more about in my newsletter this month, is when you have a high level of belief in something, you're more likely to achieve it. And so with our goals, we need to make sure that we have a high level of belief because we're going to be happier in that because we believe it's attainable. And so when you believe something is attainable, you're more likely to do it. When you don't believe it's attainable, you're not likely going to go after it, right? If you don't believe running a 5K is attainable for you, you're not going to get off the couch and go and try it because it is outside of, the Goldilocks zone. It's too hard for you to hit. On the other side of that, right? Like for me, outside of like training plans or really signing up for a race, I just don't do anything less than like a half marathon, which now is becoming more like a marathon. Like I don't sign up for races under that distance. It's just not like worth it to me, right? It's too quote easy for me in doing a half, and so really it's just full marathons now. Not to say that I won't do a half, but anyway, like it's too easy. Like I won't do 10Ks. Let's just put it that way. So because they're too easy for me, where like I'm not going to sign up for a 200 miler yet because it's too hard. That's in the unattainable, where like marathons to 100 milers are in my like Goldilocks zone, if you will, where a 100 miler is on the very high end of that, which is what I'm training for. But at like a 50 miler or 50K is well within my Goldilocks zone of achievement. I believe that I will finish those races and that they're achievable for me. So therefore, I will be able to train for them and do them. And 100 milers on the like very like highest end of that Goldilocks zone for me, where I believe it's attainable. I believe I can do it. And I'm going to train to get there. However, it's going to be, one of those things where I am going to push myself to achieve that goal. And so in this, you're having like a kind of that, a long-term goal, if you will. Like for me, it's been a 6-month thing. Well, really, this has been years in the making, but to have a longer goal where you're running up to it and then it's hitting, for me, my training plan along the way so that I am clear on my depth perception, right? What am I running today? Good. I hit my goal, right? So my depth perception is really just to follow the training plan. And by doing that, I am going to be able to then go into my 100-mile race with a high level of belief and certainty in myself that I can hit and achieve that goal, which this goes into happiness and fulfillment. And the whole reason for this is I got asked, by somebody why, their perception was that I was not happy, which, it's coming from a good place and all. However, like the way that I think about happiness is, and Hormozy's had, some impact on me on how I think about this stuff, but because there have for sure been times that I've been just downright miserable within the jobs that I've had, working in engineering firms where, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's really where we get into these binds, if you will. And it's a bind mentally around what it is that we're doing. And so to me, like, am I doing a good job? Right? Am I showing up in the right ways? Am I being there for the people that need me? And if I'm not doing my job, if I'm not showing up in the way that I need to, just because I'm not jumping out of my chair up and down, excited, cheerleading all the time, doesn't mean that I'm not happy. And I think there's, and some of this is like personalities too and whatnot, where, some people, if you're not super excited and elated and ecstatic all the time, that something's wrong. And I think that that's just not the case. And for me, especially, like I'm a very even keeled dude, right? I'm not too high, too low, which benefits me in a lot of ways. But I'm just so even keeled most of the time where it's not like overly exciting and not overly ambitious or anything like that. And so it goes into this thing where, maybe it's, not happy. But at the same time, like I'm very fulfilled in the work that I do, right? I'm fulfilled in doing this podcast and sharing my thoughts and ideas, bringing on guests, having great conversations. I'm very fulfilled in the work that I do with Cowbung Studios, right? And being able to help contractors, engineers, people with their Revit and BIM models, design faster, move quicker, do all those things through a commercial construction project. And then in some of the other consulting that I do, like I'm very fulfilled in that and being able to create benefits for, the folks that I'm working with. So whatever it is that you're working on, like you've got to have a fulfillment, right? To be able to look back and say that you did a great job and you did well by that client, that owner, that person, right? And that's where I think, on a day-to-day basis, you might not be necessarily happy, right? There's always things that we have to do that we don't like doing. But over the long term, right, are we fulfilled in the work that we're doing? Are we seeing that it makes a difference? Are we seeing results from the fruit of our labor, right? Like, are we seeing that fruit from our labor? And if we are, we're going to be fulfilled in life. And I think oftentimes when we get into these bouts of where we're just wore out is and wore down, where we're not fulfilled with the work that we're doing. We're not happy with the work that we're doing. And there's for sure a balance in this whole thing about balancing the ability to continue and persevere in longevity, right? I have friends that have really worked themselves to the bone, putting in, 80-hour weeks and just, they're purely exhausted from the work that they're doing, even though they find the work fulfilling and awesome and they're crushing it, knocking sales goals out of the park in what they're doing. But, it's taking a toll on them physically. And I think for a lot of us, we have both mental and physical tolls, and we just need to kind of balance that accordingly. A lot of this hit me very young and very early in my career with getting shingles. So I'm very like acutely aware of the stress that life can take, that work can take, that we can be overly stressed, overly just caught up, overworked, anxious. in what we're doing, the projects that we have, and the things that we're doing. Where if we take a step back and take a breath, balance our lives out a little bit. And usually, like, this doesn't need to be much. It's like an hour at night to just relax. To take the edge off, to go for a run, to go to the gym, to take a walk, to just be with family, to watch a movie. Right? Like, none of this is overly complicated or hard. It's really just, can you shut off work and the stresses and that cycle of things that's going through your mind? And if you can, you're going to be better off for it, right? And that's really what this piece is all about. For the happiness side of it, is like, happiness doesn't matter in the terms of results. And I think we're always trying to find ways to be happier, more uh just happier, right? But like, you can drink or do all these other things to make you quote unquote happy in the moment. And usually alcohol goes the other way. But you might feel better in the moment, but you're not much happier. And so, like, my question just really goes more to fulfillment and the fulfillment side of things. Like, are you fulfilled in the work that you're doing? Right? Do you feel like you're making a difference? And if you don't feel like you're making a difference, then is the time to change paths, to reevaluate where you're at. And for me, like, I'm pretty fulfilled in all the stuff that I'm doing today. So, on a day-to-day basis, you might not always feel like you're in the happiness, or maybe you're in a downtime in your path, in your career, in your life. And that's just that, right? Like, to see long term, is this the place that you want to be? And is this where you want to go? Right? Is this company, are these people going to take you to where you want to go? And if they are, cool, man, like, stick it out for a little while. Like, yeah, there might be some rough seas ahead, but you're still going to get to the destination that you're looking to get to, right? You're still going to live a fulfilled and happy life, or a fulfilled life, on this journey. Even though there's going to be rough times, the seas are not going to be easy or calm. Like, through this journey, is to make sure that you are fulfilled on it, right? Like, happy is fleeting. Like, happiness is a fleeting thing. Now, are there people that are like super giddy all the time? Absolutely, right? There are the Tiggers of the world, and there are the Eeyores of the world, right? The Tiggers that are bouncing all over, happy go lucky, not a care in the world, right? And then there's the Eeyores that are so pessimistic, so down, so negative, that you don't want to be around them. And then there's people in the middle that are just real on their expectations. Like, yes, they're optimistic about the future, but they're real in their expectations of where they're going. And I think, for a lot of folks, and especially just the engineer in me, like, I'm more realistic, more even keeled, more centered than, I'm not super up, not super down, and right in the middle. And so, one of this is just knowing who you are, but also to have some enjoyment within your life. This is why I run, this is why I shoot. To have these careers, or not careers, but like hobbies outside of work. Like, I'm not getting paid to run, I'm not getting paid to shoot. So I'm not that good yet. Um, but to have these outlets in life is going to be super beneficial to you guys. Because otherwise, again, I've seen it through and through. So many friends where they've just burnt themselves out, and that does nobody any good. So with that, guys, I know I talk a little bit about shooting sports, some goals, some happiness versus fulfillment, and hopefully this helps you guys. It's been on my mind lately. I've talked about this again. I'll do more in depth in my newsletter this month in May here, so make sure to sign up for that. Click the link in the bio. And with that, the next podcast that I'm going to record right after this is going to be on relationships, and what you can take from the 48 laws of power. So until next time.